What do you mean? Okay.
We're on. We're on. Hey, it's Doug Haas here, Haaseline Entertainment, Revelation of Spirit. As you know, I always try to bring on great guests that I've had a relationship with in the business world or in the entertainment world. And today I've got Omar Khalaf. Am I saying it right?
Yep.
Say it again.
Come on. Yes.
Khalaf, yeah, with me today. Omar and I go way back. We go way back in the cookie and cracker days of old.
30 years.
Yeah, I mean, and I know, and I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out Omar. Anyway, we're going to make this all about Omar because he's a extremely talented guy, still a young man, not an old guy like me. And he's been a great brand guy, a great sales guy. Want to talk through a lot of the, you know, this 20, 30 years of that's come between us here and talk a little bit about how technology has come into our livelihood here in
Yeah.
our world, and yet maybe try to resonate some of the things that really have always been around and got us to the table. And I think of, in some cases, might actually be being ignored through technology. So,
Right.
but we'll table that for later. So I was trying to figure out you did come through the Nabisco thing and were part of the merger to Kraft, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I started out as a merchandiser for a week, and then became a sales rep carrying the bag in South Central Los Angeles.
That is excellent. You know, carrying the bag is a big thing for me, and I use
Yep.
it a lot with young people. But now, but you were run out of the Pleasanton office, right? I mean, everything in the West ran out of that office.
No, no, no. So originally, when I first started, I came out of Vernon,
Okay.
the city of Vernon in Los Angeles. I worked for an awesome lady, Connie Nettles. I know you got to remember that name. Um, she's the one that convinced me. I mean, like I remember back then, I had worked at retail at a supermarket for through college, and then once I graduated, I actually had the ability to interview with Coke and Nabisco. Coke had offered me double what Nabisco was offering me, but
Wow.
Connie convinced me to come over because of who she was, and that was like the best decision I had ever made. I thought she was genuine. She really helped me in my career at that stage. So yeah, so one of those impactful managers that you can think of back in your careers, she was one for
She
sure.
was one of them, yeah. And you came up through the ranks, same way I did. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and yeah, I think that's one of the things that when I maybe you found the same thing is you kind of moved into that potential headquarter environment. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you saw people that no reflection on how well they did at their job, but you did see people making decisions with yourself, the one who did carry the bag, making decisions that never carried the bag. And
Correct.
and I think that that was the valuable piece. I know it was in my career with Nabisco and Kraft, and I'm sure it was for you. That was a valuable piece you brought to the table.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it was a different skill set every 18 months. Like you went from sales rep to account manager to category like category management. Then you went to frontline management in managing, sales reps. You went to like an area kind of management, managing and deploying merchandisers. I mean, like you back then it was all about steps and learning through successes, learning through failures, learning what it's like to motivate folks at different levels. And back at that level, it was a lot of trial and error, right?
Right.
Like, and you're able to have trial and error. So yeah. I mean, like the missing piece today is that a lot of the younger folks, and I don't want to sound old, but a lot of the younger folks um, aren't necessarily in that mindset uh, of developing skill sets through levels.
Right.
They they
Right.
they want to skyrocket to the top, and they think that in a lot of cases, bouncing from company to company is how to get there.
You know, it's so funny when you said that. When I was a sales manager, I remember, and you might remember this, where Nabisco affirmative action came in through through the government,
Mm-hmm.
and so we went to a college in Florida. I was a sales manager out of Orlando, um, and FAMU. I don't know if you know FAMU up there by FSU.
Okay. Yeah.
Florida. Yeah, I can't even know what it stands for.
Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And it's an all black college.
Yeah.
And so we went there to to recruit the best of the best. And I'm could have been at any college, not singling out race or anything. But we saw this all the time. You go in and you interview, and if you remember what we were making as sales managers back then, you go in and you talk to these young people, even back then, and that's 20 years ago.
Right.
And you're asking, what would you think the starting pay would be for this Nabisco sales rep job? And I would hear numbers like $100,000, a year and things like that. But to your point, trying to make that
Mhm.
and then get back to it yeah, I think it's interesting to where the puck has gone in hiring. Our company went through the hiring people with education and
Right.
and it almost seems like now when you go and you look at retail the way it is now, um, it's almost like we've at least at retail, we've gone back a little bit to somebody just being excellent at retail, you know, uh,
Right.
but we call them different. We call them merchandisers and we have a different name for them.
Right.
But, tell me your thoughts on the fact that you did carry the bag when you did start. And I know you were a great guy with the customer. You called on, I believe, Safeway. You were head of the Safeway
Right.
team. As you
Yep.
started to call on customers, didn't you feel like the carrying the bag piece carried some weight with the retailer?
Oh, huge, huge, right? Like, so that's what whenever I take over a team or lead a team, I always talk about sweat equity. Um, and sweat equity doesn't necessarily mean that you're out there humping cases. Sweat equity means that in a lot of cases, having the knowledge of what that customer is really looking for, having the experience of being in those stores and actually merchandising product and making sure that you know what it's like to face product up on a shelf and what grocery managers are looking for. So when you go in and you start selling these headquarter teams, and if you can speak their language, you're 50% ahead of your competition as far as in sales, and so that's the key dynamic to really selling because they'll understand that you're listening
Yeah. And we were
and you
blessed as a
understand.
DSD company, to
Mm-hmm.
have a little extra skin in the game, being
Right.
in stores. So look, we could talk Nabisco all day and we might get back to a couple of things, but
Yeah.
tell me what you've been doing since Nabisco, since I
Yeah.
last saw you.
So when we got acquired by Kraft, I started getting into senior leadership roles. So I ran the Safeway national team. I led the club global team, so Costco, BJ Sam's. I worked really close with the marketing groups on innovation pipeline. That was a great job. It was more of a general management role where
Was Rick Einhaus in that role at marketing
no,
yet, or had he
I
left?
it was Barry. I don't know if you know the name Barry Calpino, late great Barry Calpino. He has since passed, but he was awesome. He was like our innovation guru
Okay.
at the time, and him and I worked really close together and bringing in the marketing folks and all that. And to give you an idea of like our pipeline back then, and this is pre 3G, so we're talking about like 10 years ago. We were working on developing the cheese chips, the 100% cheese chips, like a wisp. We were developing that and trying to convince the marketing group that that's the way to go. And the marketing group was kind of resistant because they felt it was going to be too heavy on their stomach, on a consumer stomach. And now, Wisp is a 300 million, $400 million company. You
Right.
know, we were looking at protein water back then, right? We were looking at dual compartment cottage cheese and ingredients, to flip it over so that the ingredients would actually keep its form and not, things like that we were looking at. And this is 10 years ago, 11 years ago when I was
Right.
running the club national team. Had Kraft or had 3G embraced all the innovation that we actually had set forth for 3 years, they would have grown instead of having to,
Look where they are now, right?
yeah, instead of save themselves the prosperity, they would have understood that that pipeline like that could get you another $1 billion in sales or $2 billion in sales. So especially with the size of what Kraft was. So
Yeah.
you do learn from experience. You do learn from like what you said. The person that you're talking to may not have your experiences, and it's up to that person to either listen to what you have or to shut you out and
Yeah.
kind of like. And I've experienced both. They think they know it all. You know.
You're so funny. And I want to stay a little bit on this subject because it's actually, I think it's the last time I saw you. The last time you had an impact on me, but you're talking about this innovation piece. I was the first guy to change the embossment on the Oreo. Now we had um, Halloween,
Yeah.
orange filling, but it was still an Oreo cookie with orange filling.
Yep.
But I changed the embossment with a movie that you and I happened to go to the premiere on,
Yep.
The Grinch.
I
It was
remember the Grinch.
right,
Yes, I
and it was the
remember that.
first
Yep.
time they
Yep.
ever changed the actual Oreo cookie. Now they'll do it at the drop of a
Mm-hmm.
hat to sell a cookie. But back
Yeah.
then, it was like, I mean, you'd have thought I was selling my firstborn child to get them to put the Grinch on that Oreo. Uh,
Right.
and then I was sitting there thinking about, I actually got a picture. I don't know if I've sent it to you already, but I got a picture they took of you and your team out there, or the team you were working with at that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I still
No.
have that, and I'm going to send it to you on your
Okay.
email when I get
That'd
done.
be awesome. Yeah.
But that was a pretty fun night to go there. We had the whole
Yep.
marketing team from headquarters there, and we had the LA team there. Do you remember who was involved from your team there? Do you
I,
remember?
God, I'm gonna say like Mark Edwards, Colleen Kalaba, maybe
What was
Val,
Colleen's last name?
Colleen Potier at the time.
Potier.
Yeah. And myself and Mark, Micah Jamian, maybe. I don't remember that. And who else was there? Um,
I'll send you the picture, and you'll
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you can guess who they tell me who they all are. It's funny. The reason I asked about Colleen is that I used to go to LA a lot and work with the studios when I was doing the
Mhm.
Walmart marketing and stuff. And I remember I took Colleen to a Laker game. Shaq had given me some his seats at the Laker game
Okay.
when he was playing, and always had fun with the team out there in
Mhm.
California because you guys are just so great anyway. But coming out of Bentonville, Arkansas, I needed to get my
Right.
fix out there a little bit.
Yeah.
So since Kraft, what I know you've been in a lot of other verticals.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I left Kraft because of the 3G merger, I decided to. I've always been a believer of continuous improvement, and I talked to a bunch of folks, and they said, "Well, you don't want to stay a one-trick pony in big CPG. You want to kind of go experience some smaller stuff." So
Right.
I did. I've had successes. I've had failures. Along the line in 6 different roles in 10 years. I did a tissue company, snack company, clean beauty company, a business analytics company, and a breading company. And most recently with I had last year I had what I thought was kind of a dream role of running sales and operations for Schwann's, which is a big company. But then I pretty much had to walk away because they're requiring everything to go to Minneapolis.
Right, right.
And
So let
and
me ask you
and
something about the other snack food thing was with On the Border, correct?
correct,
And
yeah,
wa- was that before Utz bought that brand or
yes, yes. So
okay,
I was brought on, and that one was kind of like a bittersweet. Um, uh, an old colleague of mine that worked at Pepsi actually called me and said, "Hey, would you like to run sales?"
right,
And so I was brought on, but it was my first foray into private equity. And the first thing I will tell anybody that if you're ever entertaining to go into private equity, do your homework because you have to go in with an exit. You have to have an ironclad contract, or else they'll take advantage of you. And that's exactly what they did to me. Went in. They had me revamp the sales organization. They had me create a planning process. I had to stop. They were down 30% in sales. I had to stop the leaking because they were getting kicked out of Kroger and Safeway. And I did all that in like 8 months.
Wow.
And then they turn around and said, at the 10th month, they turn around and said that, oh, well, we're going to have to eliminate your position.
Wow.
And
Wow.
this is after I did everything they asked me to do. Brought in new talent, restructured their category management team, restructured the sales organization.
And then they sold the brand to Utz eventually.
And then they sold the brand to Utz 18 months later. So basically what happened was they took me off their books.
Right.
But they could.
Yeah.
And they became that much more profitable to an Utz to be able to they had a better valuation.
I have a tie
right?
to the whole situation because and I don't know if these folks were making the chips back then, but one of my clients is Santa Fe chips and salsa
Mm-hmm.
and in Texas, and their chips, some of On the Border's chips were made by Rico's. Um,
Okay.
the company that has the cheese,
Yeah.
yeah, that anyway, that's my tie. And that's when I saw that you had worked for them, I was thinking about that. Um, and on Schwann's, then when you worked there, was Sean Reed involved with Schwann's?
No. He had long
He had
gone.
left.
He was
Yeah.
long gone. Yeah. I think he went on to go to Jack
Jack's
Lane.
Links, and now he's with Mighty Spark.
Yeah. Now he's
Yeah.
with the new one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I was wondering that because I was doing some
Uh-huh.
marketing with I'm trying to remember the young man that was the marketing guy for Red Baron Pizza, but I can't remember his name. But anyway, yeah, and then you got into the beverage side of the business too, right? I mean,
Right. So this is like a premier repacker. So it's a
okay,
technology company that does repacking for mainly beverage.
right.
Um, Total startup. They just signed their Series B, got another 40 million injection from VS2 or VSG or something like that. It's just a different dynamic. I'm a CPG guy. I
Yeah,
like to go out and meet customers, meet with people, talk about business, talk about how to build stories around capturing consumers, all that. And this is just a
right.
different animal. You're kind of selling CPGs on services,
Got it, got it, got it.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So now we move forward to today, and we talked about carrying the bag and everything. Um, What do you see as I mean, I utilize the baseball analysis. I'm a big baseball fan, and you
Mm-hmm.
hear a lot of the screaming and yelling lately about the analytics, of baseball, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah,
particularly, I'm a big Yankee fan, so I know you're probably a Dodger fan,
I
so
am a huge Dodger
I
fan, and
know, I
we're
know. So
collapsing.
you kicked our ass, and that's just the way
Yep.
it goes. But anyway, you know, I just was listening to Joe Torre. It was they had Old Timers Day in New York, and he was talking about, look, I mean, I get the analytics, but he goes, I'm just not for it. He goes, at the end of the day, he goes, you got to have people that know the game that can make decisions based on the feel, the marketplace, the
Right.
feel of the relationship with the retailer, you know, all of those things that we did and were schooled at extremely well when we worked for Nabisco, particularly.
Right.
And
Right.
I think we brought that, not to knock craft, but we brought that to the craft organization because I think they were more of a numbers and nuts and bolts and right.
100%.
And we brought that humanity of
Right.
the grocery business to them. What's your feelings about here we are in a technology world that's making decisions for and maybe dumbing down a lot of our marketeers and a lot of our salespeople. I'm
Right.
not meaning that in a negative way, but not really focusing on the nuts and bolts that you and I were blessed to
Right.
have in our training.
Right. Yeah, no. And it's funny you said that because I was just talking to my sister yesterday about this, about AI, right? And AI could be an extremely valuable tool, right?
Right.
Like if you know how to use it, if you know what to ask, AI can be extremely valuable. But you have to know your subject, right? Because you can't go in there and just plug in, start asking AI questions like ChatGPT, because in a lot of cases it's giving you wrong information, and you need to learn. You need to be able to decipher what's right, what's solid, and what isn't, and hone in on that. And that's where I think that we're in the precipice of that going on, right? Like a lot of players are going to be using AI thinking they're subject matter experts going in, and they may not be,
Right.
right? Like they might be great at memorizing shit, but like they in their history, they don't have it. They don't have that the background to be able to identify whether or not they're talking about something that's actually correct or not.
Well, you actually experienced it, lived it. And some of it, I
Correct.
use the word common sense.
Common sense, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's practicality, right? Like there's a lot of practicality, but then there's also a lot of your historical background, like you're not the knowledge that's up here that isn't captured in AI, right?
Right.
And that's where people kind of mess up, right? Like you hear about those attorneys that go into court with fake cases, and so forth, because AI intuitively wants to please you, right? Like you're the master of that, your bot, right? Like you're the master, and it wants to please you. And if you direct them in a certain direction, it's going to give you exactly what it's going to regurgitate what you want them to say,
Right. Right.
right?
Right. So, and to me, a lot of this, and that I was kind of on the retail promotion side. Obviously the
Mhm.
retailtainment is what we called it out of the Walmart land.
Right,
And I'm finding, that's still my wheelhouse. And yet that has changed so much. And of course, we had 2 years of COVID that really changed that also, from an
right,
in-store to delivery now. And again, I'm not knocking what we would call today retail media, communication through the phone, communication through your laptop,
right,
through technology. But it's still that I guess that touchy-feely, that fear of missing out, whether it's on technology or whether it's at the store level, that has hurt, I think, a little bit of retail. Is that COVID after 2 years and then getting back, that there was and of course, then you have a whole change of the dynamic of marketing, in-store media and marketing. Um,
right,
and people want to, and what they have found, obviously, is there's a cost-cutting piece in there. When anytime you can save money for
right,
anybody, it perks
right,
everybody's ears up. But in the long run, based on everything we've been talking about, has it really saved money? Because, I think we have this term omni-channel now, which I like a little bit, except it's just another word that everybody's trying to sell and use.
right,
But and I'll use an example. When I was doing Walmart, in its rawest form, we had four-way displays with signage on it, about promotions like Oreo stacking and what we were doing promotion-wise. And we had a promotion every month at Walmart,
right,
retailtainment. And we had back then Walmart TV we were doing. And I, even did something with the quarterbacks of the century, where you got to vote for your favorite quarterback on
hmm
back when the internet was in its infancy stages. So
right,
I was kind of like I was doing omni-channel marketing back then,
right,
but
right,
it was through much more in-store,
right.
to the
I,
consumer. And
I
and
did a
of
very
course,
similar.
and
I
that
did a
cost a
very
lot of
similar
money.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Los Angeles, when I was with Nabisco running the marketplace, I actually started doing promotions with the LA Clippers back then, and
Right.
and we would actually have displays, and we would offer 4 tickets, four cokes, and a tub of popcorn for like $49.99 to bring your family into a Clipper game. And you're right. Like, and that was all in-store activated. It was a coupon in store that you got off the display. Execution was in every store in the marketplace. I always say that you could come up with the best strategies ever, but if you can't combine it with excellent execution, you're wasting your time. If you can combine strategy and execution, then you're transformation,
Right,
right?
right. And the last one I know we're short on time here, but it seems to me, I want your opinion on this, that we used to obviously, we came from the brand, from the sales, the guy carrying the bag, selling the retailer, whether it was at the store level, whether it was at the back door, whether it was at the headquarter level. And
Mm-hmm.
now I see an entirely different environment because of some of the HR and the hirings that now the retailers are selling the brands, selling retail media. I know I'll use Walmart and Amazon as a
Mm-hmm.
typical. They are asking now the brands, you got to spend money. They're selling them, and I'm talking huge promotional packages to
Right.
online. They're selling them this to get them to spend more money on something. And what I'm finding and I'm pushing back on with that world is that the results are not there.
Right.
We're being sold a bag of goods. I'm not saying it's like to your point. I'm not saying it's bad. It has a
Right.
purpose. It is driving some sales, but not as much as everybody thinks it is.
Well, and it all falls on execution in store, right? Like
Right,
so,
right.
and because of COVID, because of everything that's gone on with, I still equate this to like Uber and Lyft and all that. I don't like those. There's been so many millions of jobs created in those two companies that there's less people in the marketplace to go work at a Target, at a grocery store, right? So when these retailers like the Walmarts of the world and the Krogers of the world are selling you these marketing promotions, they're good promotions. The problem is they don't have the personnel at store to make sure that they're executed,
Right,
right?
right.
And so that's where it gets spotty. You get 60-70% execution, but if you're spending all this money, your payback isn't there.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I don't want to keep you any longer than I told you I was going to have, and I had so many other things to talk about.
All
Like,
right, well, I'm good. I'm
you
good
good?
if you want to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, good. That's great. Because I wanted to talk a little bit about just some fun stuff. So we had some. I'm trying to remember who ran that Western Division. I can't remember his name. What was that guy's name?
Okay, so are you talking about Ray Buckley, maybe?
I'm talking about Ray Buckley.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Ray Buckley, what a great guy he was. And of course,
Mhm.
my counterpart when I was in the DMC side was the great honorable Hank Sledgen.
Yeah, Hank. Yep. Hank was the man back then
The
in the
man.
Northern California region, right? Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I want to tell you a real quick funny story is I went from sales manager to RBDM for Steve
Mhm.
Buckholz's region up in the Midwest. And and of course that was unheard of. There were a lot of pissed off people at me and at that whole promotion because that was a huge jump in grade and everything else. But I think Dan Luter just wanted to get rid of me out of the Southeast region and said, let's send them up there. Buckholz will fire them. But anyway,
Mhm.
story for another day. But when I got up there, I had an account where first time I walked in, it was up in Minneapolis called Minter Wiseman, a wholesaler. This guy comes with me with a napkin and he goes, you guys owe us like $65,000. And I go, show it to me. And it's a napkin and it's got all this stuff written on it and it's got Hank's signature on it.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah.
long story short, without getting, I went to Hank with it and I said, Hank, what's going on here? And he said, I'm glad I'm out of there. And anyway, I got our good friend Gene Biancheri, Gino,
Uh-huh. I
to,
remember Gene. Yeah.
right? I got Gino to somehow in finance to bury that 65. And
That is
and
funny.
and from then on, and Steve Buckholz was known he was like the killer. If you went up to work for Steve, they were sending you there to die and be hatchet. Steve
Right.
loved me after that because I made that go away through Gino. But yeah, you're right, Hank. And I'm trying to think who else was out of that office in Pleasant.
Um, God, back then. Um, what's his name? I'm trying to remember.
That's all right. We don't have to. If
Yeah.
you, yeah.
I don't know if you remember the name John Sorensen.
Oh yeah, John Sorensen. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in Southern California. And John Legalush.
Oh,
That's
John
who I was
Malkovich.
thinking of. He was
Absolutely.
in
There you
Northern
go. There you
California.
go.
He
So
came
where are
out of
you
the
located now?
So I'm in Chicago now. So I'm in the North Shore area of Chicago.
Nice.
Yeah.
And is it the Schwann's that gig that got you there, or
Yeah. No,
no?
no,
That
no,
was in
no. Craft.
Minneapolis.
No, the craft got me here because I came to Chicago to be the industry relations guy.
Okay.
And then I took over the club global team
Now, where was
here
the office there? Was it
in
in?
Northbrook. It's
Oh,
in
okay.
Northbrook. Yeah, like so it was in Northfield actually.
Because I
Um,
worked out of the old Nabisco Des Plaines office. I don't know if you ever
uh-huh.
knew about that. Where Denny
Yeah,
Belcastro was there,
yeah, with Danny and all those guys. Yeah,
and Jeff
yeah,
Culler. Yeah, we were all out of that office. So, um,
yeah, and so that brought me here. And then sure enough, I mean, like they finally got me out of the West Coast, out of California,
right.
and I get here, and 2 years later they sell the fucking company. So yeah, yeah. So they just totally just hosed me regarding like moving out of California and coming here and just kind of okay we're selling a company.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Now you have some daughters too, right?
Yeah, my twins are they're turning 16 next month. They go to Nutria High School here,
Nice.
and they're going to be sophomores. Yeah, they're awesome. They're just like my best friends.
I bet. I bet.
Yeah,
It's great to have young. I mean, I'm older than dirt now, but still trugging. I don't know if you remember Neil Lampy. Does that name ring a bell?
yes, yeah, absolutely.
I'm working
Yeah,
with Neil and I have a company, and I work in numerous verticals, uh,
okay.
technology, and still in the CPG world, still in the entertainment world.
Mhm.
Got a t-shirt business down in Irvine, California, but you know,
That's great.
and work with Neil, who's great. And Neil actually, was the DMC guy way back, when it first started. So we have
Mhm.
a lot of stories together too. But he had left the company a long time. But I know you're in between right now on
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm actually I took a step back from Sojo as an advisor.
right,
So I'm a kind of like a strategic referral advisor for the company.
right.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm kind of entertaining uh, my next career move. Just kind of looking back and just kind of saying, okay, I want to join. I want to join a positive company. I want to join somebody that has a great culture,
Right.
and that I can impact based on my experiences. That I can turn around and impact their revenue, impact their culture, impact their talent, their sponsoring.
You've
Um,
always been that, Omar. I mean, ever since I've known you, I mean, it was always great to go out there and everybody gravitated to you. And it's one thing to have a great personality and people gravitate to you, but then it's another thing that you leave those people better than when you were managed by them or part of your team. And I've known you always
Thank
to
you. Yeah.
always to leave everybody in a better place, and well equipped for whatever their next role was, or if they, like some of us, you just move on to another
No,
adventure. So,
it's funny, and I appreciate you saying that because I've always felt like legacy has nothing to do with position. It has nothing to do with title. It
right,
has everything to do with how many people have you affected on the way up, right?
absolutely.
Positively affected people on the way up, and if you've mentored right, if you've taken the right people and given them even separating people from the company, you can do it in a positive way. You can you know so the humanity, like there's humanity involved, and there's also positivity, right? Like so just because a person isn't right for one specific role, they could have skill sets that could be applied somewhere else.
Right.
And right, and as a leader, you should be able to kind of adjust that and take them over to that side. So I've always been in the camp of you got to leave it better than it was,
Yeah, yeah. It's
right?
funny. When I was working in Minneapolis, um, I can't remember the damn letters anymore, what I was doing, but I was in charge of the account side of the business for Claudia Mitchell. You remember Claudia? I don't know
Oh
if
my
you.
God, I remember the name. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she was the regional vice president there, and it was during that time when we were making that shift at Nabisco of getting rid of the old school and high,
Yeah,
right. And I had to literally go in to Minneapolis and Denver and carve out some, as you already know, some very talented people that had
right,
cemented Nabisco's relationship in that area for
right,
decades and tell them that, it was time to hang it up. And
right,
and I literally, I think it's probably the only time I literally cried at the end of the night working. And I called Claudia Mitchell up on the phone crying, and I said,
right.
"This is the shittiest thing I've
Yes.
ever had to do working for this company."
Uh-huh.
And I swore I would never, ever, ever, I would leave before I ever had to do that again. And luckily, I think our world has changed a lot since those days
Right.
because of people like you getting into
But
positions where you can make a change.
but I had to do the same. When I was running the West Coast, I had to eliminate 30 people
Right,
under productivity.
right.
Um, and I had to figure out how to do that. And you're absolutely right. Like I was drained. I felt horrible. I felt horrible for them because it wasn't about me. It was about them.
Them and their family.
Um, yeah, their families, how their families were going to be impacted and everything. And you don't sleep. You just like it, there's just at the pit of your stomach that you just feel horrible that you're going to impact this person
Yep.
personally in a negative way.
Right, right.
Right. And that's the piece that's super hard when you start entering. When 3G bought us, it was hilarious because I don't know if you've heard the stories, but when Sergio was appointed CEO, he took his top 125 executives and he put us through a 10-minute interview. He sat in a cubicle or in an office with no windows, and he paraded us in for 10 minutes
Right.
with three questions. What have you done for the company? What are you currently doing? What do you want to do? And when I'm talking about 10 minutes, I'm talking about like his admin was knocking on the door at the 2 minute mark, like 2 minute warning. And then when our head of sales was actually assigned, he and I had a conversation for about 40 minutes, and the first thing he said to me was, relationships don't mean much in this industry. And at that point, I kind of raised my hand and said, I'm out. Like I knew that these guys were going to ask me to compromise my relationships in the industry,
Right.
and there's nothing like having trust and relationships in this industry, right?
No
Because
doubt.
there's a lot of great people in this industry, and a lot of my best friends are from this industry
That carried the
on
bag.
both sides. Yeah,
Right.
on both sides, retailers and
Right.
and
Right.
CPG guys. Yeah,
There's no doubt about it. So
yeah,
I want to close with this because it was funny when we were bantering back and forth. One of the things you said in the messaging was, "Hey, we don't always agree on everything." And I
yeah,
thought, and I know where you were heading with that, and I don't want to go there, but I think that one thing that's great about you, and I'll say in about this carrying the bag.
hmm
Environment that we were raised in, business wise, is that the people that actually that despised me the most in business. And when I was a sales rep, the managers that literally, were hateful at times. I mean, wouldn't talk to me. I was
right,
fresh out. Those people I'm still friends with today, more more than the ones who gave me everything I wanted, all the
right,
displays I wanted. I walked in and I couldn't do anything
right.
wrong. So it's funny that yeah, you're absolutely right though. We're in a worldly scenario here where there's a lot of division for a lot of reasons that I don't even want to talk about today.
Right.
But it's great that I think because of the way that we were raised from Nabisco. I'll just say it. Nabisco was a great
Yeah.
place to be raised. That I just agreeing to disagree professionally you know, was always the next step to the next sale, or
Right. It
or
was
the next,
okay.
or then it
Right.
was okay. Yeah,
Right.
and
But
And I've always felt that about you too. So I kind of laughed when you said
Oh
that.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. It was. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I remember back even when I was carrying the bag in South Central, there was the guy by the name of Robert Kasparian or something. He owned two markets, Signal Market, and
yeah,
he was the toughest,
a
type of
beast.
person, a beast, right? And he was hard on me like crazy, and then after a while we kind of became friends,
Right.
and then he started buying all kinds of stuff from me, right? And so yeah, so you're right. Like once you get past personalities, once you get past it's not
Egos, whatever.
the
Yeah.
egos and all that. You find the genuine, right? Like, and
Right.
that's where you have to operate. You have to operate in the genuine. You have to operate in the fact that, you know what, who cares if that other person has a different opinion
And
of
I
what's going
I
on.
know what we were talking about was this political world before we.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But what I always tell people is as a person on a one side is, I don't even party with my people because I always think my liberal friends are so much more fun to party with. I mean, I get I'm in the entertainment business and everybody's liberal in the entertainment business. And I got to be honest with you, my conservative friends are duds. They're just not really that they're not that fun. So anyway, hey, it's so great to see you, my friend. You
Likewise.
changed a bit. You look awesome. Still got that great smile, and I
Yeah,
hope we can continue to chat offline. I'd like to talk to you offline about some of the things I'm doing. See if there's any interest
perfect.
there. But anyway, thanks for
That
spending
sounds
some
great.
time with me here. I know my audience is going to enjoy just they always enjoy just hearing the way maybe things used to be, and if they can
Mhm.
grab one or two things from what we said and incorporate them in the new world, you know.
Right,
I
right.
think they'll be much better off. Take care, man.
All righty, Dougie.
Thanks a lot.